Okay friends, here is the flat lay for the Charlotte Running Company Trail Race 2024. I'll be doing the 13 miler. There's also a 9 miler and a 4 miler, but I'll be doing the long distance one. So lots of clothes, lots of layers here because the weather is supposed to be nice and clear and sunny, but it might be 20 degrees, between 19 and 22 degrees, which is I guess that's about -8 or -9 Celsius for all my metric friends. So cold. Layers up top. My base layer is going to be a really old Under Armour Cold Gear base layer, thermal base layer. This thing's probably, I don't know, 12 years old, but it still works fine. And I'll be wearing a Reckless Running singlet over the top of that. I'm going to have a Reckless Running full winter running hat on my head. I'll be wearing a Believe in the Run buff neck gaiter. I'll have some Gooder Wrap G sunglasses. There's my bib right there. On each hand, I'm going to be wearing 2 pairs of gloves. Inside the gloves will be these hand warmers, Hot Hands hand warmers. I'm going to bring some tights with me in the bag, but I'm going to try and do this in the tight shorts, even though it's cold. I've raced at 19 degrees before in tight shorts. Of course, that was just a road 10K, and this one I'll be out there for a little bit longer. I have 2xU calf sleeves, and these also I haven't worn in several years. I'm not wearing them for the compression value, more just to keep the bottom of the legs warm without having to run in tights, because I dislike running in tights. I will be wearing Injinji toe socks, the trail running toe socks, so they are a little bit thicker and have a thicker cuff up here, a little bit softer as well, a little bit more rugged. And I will be wearing the Saucony Endorphin Rift, which has been a good fast trail running shoe, trail racer, if you will, kind of like the Endorphin Speed, but bulked up for the trail with these nice aggressive 4.5 millimeter outsole lugs. I think that's everything. Okay. So Anthony and I are here at Ann Springs Closed Greenway, and we are very early. So we're just gonna hang out indoors because it's in the low 20s Fahrenheit outside. Probably start my warm-up run in about 40 minutes. But yeah, I don't know if you can see outside. It's a clear morning. Anthony and I are doing a warm-up run right now. It's going to be various surfaces, a lot of single track like this, some open cross country, some dirt road.
A water crossing.
Anthony's route is going to have a water crossing in the first half mile in sub-freezing weather. He's loving that. Nope. So this is the water crossing that Anthony has to go in right away. I guess I get to wait a mile before I get my feet wet in it. Yeah, son of a... Those lucky 4-milers get to pass right by it. Well, we're not previewing that part.
No.
All right, so we're gonna try this swinging bridge out here.
I gotta do it.
Oh yeah, this is a walker. Yep. Have to race walk across that one. Man, that flexes. But I'd rather lose donkeys. No. 801? All right.
Said over a minute. 831. Yeah.
So there's no race footage except for these stills from just past the starting line because the GoPro died in the starting chute and I couldn't get it to work, maybe because of the cold. So we're just going to look at these for a second and then go straight to the awards ceremony and then to the recap. Sorry about that.
And winning with a time of 1:32.21. Challenge has Willaman.
Woo! Getting faster.
40 through 44-year-old females in third place with a time of 2:13.19, Emma Evans.
Hey guys, so we're going straight to the race recap with Con here because unfortunately right at the start of the race, like literally 15 seconds before the gun went off, the GoPro died. I mean, not died, it came back to life once I got home and plugged it in, but it would not work for me or turn on during the race, so I have zero race footage. So I had to carry it the whole time without even being able to use it, which is great. Not sure why, it probably had to do because of the cold. I'm thinking maybe, hey buddy, come here, come here. I'm thinking that maybe if I had held it in my palm like I sometimes do, instead of at the end of this stick, then it might not have been so exposed, and maybe my body heat and the hand warmer might have kept it from freezing. Anyway, the media that I did capture transferred, so I think it'll be okay. So, to the race. 13-mile race, Charlotte Running Company Trail Race, 13-miler. There was a 13-miler, there was a 9-miler, and there was a 4-miler. And Anthony came down with me. We drove together, and he did the 9-miler. Come here, buddy. And as well as a whole bunch of people doing the 4-miler. There were about 900 people there. I'd say half of those people were doing the 4-miler. And then there were probably about over 200, between 200 and 300 doing the 9-miler, probably 150 doing the 13-miler, doing the long course. So as we started, it was on a gravel road, a wide gravel road for the first quarter mile or so. And then it went immediately left into about 100 meters of pretty technical single track going up a hill where we slowed down pretty quickly. Luckily, I mean, I was toward the front of the pack and we were already a little strung out, though still kind of together. We could all talk to each other. After that little single track, into an open field, which actually kind of crossed the field where most of the cars parked. Had to kind of weave around a few cars because the races started sequentially 15 minutes apart, so not everyone was starting together. And then we kind of got into another, 2/3 of a mile of trail, and that was kind of single track that was, sandy, silty, but not too bad. We had to navigate through the remains of a fallen tree that had fallen over the path, so kind of weaving our way in and out throughout the trunk. At about 1.25 miles, we got to the stream crossing that the 9-milers and 13-milers had to do. Luckily, the swinging bridge was available for use, although it swung so much that you really couldn't run across it. You really kind of had to speed walk across it. It was almost like a trampoline effect, and if you've ever landed on a trampoline, when the trampoline's rebounding up as you're landing, then it doesn't help. It kind of deadens you. And with a metal bridge like that, it could really mess you up. So then the 13-milers split off from the 9-milers, and we ended up going up another dirt road into kind of a pastoral field. If you remember the footage from the warm-up where we were going by the donkeys and the sheep and the horses, that's kind of where that was, up by a dairy farm out in the open. Really pleasant morning before we got into a long stretch of hiking trail, which was single track, but it was pretty smooth single track. It wasn't mountain bike trail full of technical features and stuff. It was meant for more of general foot traffic. So it was gonna be rooty and rocky here and there, but generally smooth, and we could run pretty quickly. I settled in with another runner behind me named Brian, who we were kind of just running the same pace, and we got to having a conversation, and I didn't even know what he looked like because he was, right behind me, and I'm not one of those who's gonna be doing that over my shoulder, to talk to someone. It turns out we follow a lot of the same running personalities on YouTube, all of that. Got to know each other. We were both, it turns out we were both at Chicago this past October and both had really breakthrough PR races, so that was cool. So yeah, just enjoyed that time. I think the two of us were kind of, in the top 10. We had really kind of lost touch with the race leaders. I knew a few of those guys, 2 or 3 of them at least, were really fast, and they were going to be running faster than I was willing or able to run today. I wasn't sure about the other guys, you know. I mean, it was strung out so that we really couldn't see them. After about 5 or 6 miles, I give general mile distances because we'll talk about GPS and accuracy and race distance and all that. We rejoined the 9-mile race. So we were doing miles that they weren't leading up until then. And of course, them starting after us and us doing more miles, you know, kind of in the middle parts, early middle parts of the race, we were joining up with the middle of the pack of the 9-mile group. And we were, you know, front of the pack 13-milers. So we were running faster, and we kind of joined courses with them on single track, which made it difficult to get around them because all of a sudden we were congested and trying to find our way to get around dozens of people. It felt like hundreds of people. But, you know, just looking for those ways to get around on the single track and constantly on your left, you know, while trying to be nice, trying not to be an a-hole. And some of those, it was precarious at times. Especially since that trail was a little bit more technical, a little bit more up and down, a little bit more windy, more roots, more rocks. There were a few more crossings involving bridges where, you know, you kind of had to be single file there. And it was at least a couple miles like that. It felt like longer. Then the 13-milers broke off again. Oh, before the 13-milers broke off again, while trying to get around some 9-milers, I did turn my ankle. Again, if you saw my recap of the Lake Norman State Park 30K, where I turned my ankle pretty badly, yeah, it's that same ankle. And it wasn't quite as bad as how I turned it there, but it was enough where I had to stop for a good 20, 30 seconds. And in that time, I saw at least 2 or 3 green bibs, you know, which are the 13-milers, you know, pass me, you know, all that, you okay, buddy, while still running past it. And I was good. I knew if I just took a few minutes, walked it off, and then started running again, the adrenaline would go and, you know, wouldn't hurt so much. I just had to be more careful. Of course, I lost touch with Brian and was a few places back at that point. So got around a few more 9-milers, got to where the 13-mile split off to the left while the 9-mile went straight, which was great because then it wasn't congested anymore, but it was totally alone. So I was still towards the front of the pack, you know, but there was no one visible in front of me. And even after I had been on that cutoff for a while, there was no one visible behind me. So I was pretty much running alone. And that trail was not a pleasant trail. It was mostly runnable, but parts of it were not fun to run on, you know, almost stepwise, you know, climbing, or parts where it was a horse trail, so parts of it were really mucked up by horse hooves, so it was, you know, really wavy, pointy surface that had all frozen in place, and you didn't know it was frozen in place until you're trying to step on it. So the footing was not good. Got into another open field section where the wind had picked up and it was all in my face, and I was just thinking, oh, really? Anyway, after a couple miles of that, we again joined trails with the 9-milers and the 4-milers this time. So it was all 3 courses were together, and this was within a couple miles of the end. So you had middle of the pack 9-milers, you had back of the pack 4-milers, most of whom were walking, and the occasional, you know, front of the pack 13-milers, all trying to run the same course at different speeds and get around each other. And while those trails were good and runnable, still ups and downs, just getting around people was an issue. But you could tell who was running what distance even without seeing their bibs. If they were walking or jogging, they were probably 4-milers. If they were running but at a pace where you were catching them quickly, they were most likely 9-milers, middle of the pack 9-milers. And if they were running, but I was having a hard time catching them, they were 13-milers. So I was looking for those people. And in that stretch, I did catch 2 or 3, one of them within like a half mile of the finish. And on my warm-up run, I had kind of gone over the back half mile of the course, so I knew when we were within that distance, even though going by GPS, no one would be able to know it unless they had previewed the run, because the GPS was so divergent from the claimed race distances. The last quarter mile, you could really, you were back on that same gravel dirt road where you could really open it up. And I know at that point I was doing 6-minute paces. And I finished, I was 9th overall, first in my age group. I didn't get first Masters, so that means there was at least one Masters runner ahead of me, not counting the overall 3. So it was a 1:32 for 13 miles. If that distance is to be believed, that would have been about a 7:07 pace, which is pretty good on a hilly technical trail. If my watch is to be believed, which had it at 11.5 miles for that same time, that would be about a 7:55 pace. And I know I was averaging faster than that, even with, turning the ankle, even with some of the really hard hills. Most likely, it was probably somewhere in between. I was probably doing the mid to low 7s, and the race website did say the distances were approximate. It's not like it's certified or anything. The body felt like I ran 13 miles hard, so I'll go with that. I'll take it. It was a competitive field for the 13 miler, and I was happy to finish where I was. Was not my best performance, and I really only have myself to blame for that. Mainly because this is the end of an 80-mile week. I'm still doing winter grit with Believe in the Run, so no taper. This is all just, I was going to come out and run hard, but I knew I wasn't going to be, targeting this race. It was fun. It was less fun trying to multiple times get in with the other race distances and getting around people, but would I do it again? Yeah, probably, but the 9-miler, not the 13-miler. Some of those miles that just the 13-milers ran were not fun. I guess I should do a shoe talk. I wore the Saucony Endorphin Rift, just like I did at the 30K at Lake Norman State Park. And it performed well. It did exactly what I needed to do. I knew I was going to be settling into a sustainably fast trail pace. Call that what you will. I'm not going to put a number on it. But this did feel like a good workout shoe. I knew I didn't need anything with a plate. The first half of the race where it was less technical, I was thinking to myself, could I have just worn road shoes? Anthony wore road shoes for the 9-miler, and he finished 2nd overall, behind another one of our friends, Chris. But as we got to the back half of the race, especially the part that was just on the 13-mile course and it was really technical, I was glad to have something with a little bit of protection, a little bit of grip, and not quite as thin. So this is kind of halfway between a tank and a sports car, and that's exactly what I want for running fast on a trail. So what else worked? I think my layers for the freezing temperatures worked. Just having the Speedster Rabbit Race short tights on, and having the hand warmers and the gloves, that was huge. That was game-changing. And then just having the Under Armour with the singlet over it. I was never cold the whole race. So I wore the sunglasses more to just keep the cold air out of my eyes so my eyes weren't watering, because I had to be staring down at the trail for a lot of it. And people don't talk about that enough, but that takes a lot of brain energy. I was mentally fatigued at the end of that race. And I'm kind of glad that I don't have any more trail races lined up until Umstead Trail Marathon on March 2nd. And that one only has about 5.5 miles of single track, and it's all at the beginning. So as long as I'm careful and don't turn an ankle on that, I should perform pretty well there. But yeah, that's my recap. I'm sorry I don't have as much exciting footage for you this time. But please help the channel out. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, share it. And I really do appreciate the subscriptions, trying to get to 1,000. Yeah, 80% of the viewers are not subscribed, so just hit the subscription button. Do me a favor. All right, guys, I will see you in the next run.